Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Do you want to tell us how Fleabag came to be?
Fleabag came to be because I was challenged to write a sort of stand-up storytelling kind of piece for a fringe theatre night in London, and I couldn't think of doing anything more terrifying in my life, so I ended up sort of having to do it just to sort of dare myself to do something like that. I'd written a few short plays before, but I'd never written anything for myself, and I certainly didn't consider myself in any sort of stand-up territory, but I was slightly tricked into doing it because it was like a sit-down stand-up night. There was like a stool, so I was like, and so I decided I was going to write a 10-minute piece, which was going to be a kind of a character that I always sort of wanted to play as an actress, and which was a sort of acerbic, dark, sexually candid, confident, sort of relentlessly joking woman who is actually underneath it all hiding a real darkness. And that was the kind of basic structure for the 10 minutes that I did, and it went down well at that night. And then it got, and then me and my theatre company decided we were going to turn it into a full-length play and then take it up to Edinburgh. So I just expanded on that idea. So the play sort of start off feeling like it's a kind of stand-up comedy show, and end up, as the kind of layers peel away, you realise that the character's actually very broken and unhappy. And then when the BBC and Amazon decided they want to turn it into a series based on the pilot I made from doing that play.
And like, I guess like when you went to like turning a 10-minute sit-down stand-up thing into 25-minute, 30-minute sort of like going, like, what is it like? It's sort of like, it's like sort of like when people get those short stories and make them into 3-hour movies. Like,
it was really, really hard. It was really hard, especially as the play, which ended up being an hour-long play in the end. It was, you know, I had a captive audience, and they were there for an hour, and I had I knew whatever happened that I had there for the beginning, middle, and end, and it was one arc. You know, it started off funny, and then it broke down, then it kind of ended up more dramatic, and I sort of wanted to keep that structure over 6 episodes, but then I needed to break it up completely, break it down narratively, and start introducing sort of more characters and explore more of her relationships in more detail. But the one thing I kept telling myself was that we're selling it as a comedy to an audience, and so every single episode has to at least begin with and maintain the jokes, so the audience really feel like they're being entertained, and then use a kind of sleight of hand within that to kind of sort of actually start seeding in the drama. And so I kind of, that was my rule for each episode, was like tickle, tickle, slap, funny, funny, sad. And then from then on, just started writing things that I just thought I'd love to play that, or I'd love to see that, and then sort of started slotting that into the original story. And, or like, if I just had this idea that at the beginning of episode 2, there's that scene on the tube, and I've been listening to Sail by AWOL Nation on the tube going into town so many times, and I was like, I need that scene to be in Fleabag. And even though it wasn't quite justifiable in terms of the story, I just sort of bulked the original structure out with jokes and little insights into her character like that. But it was, it was mind-numbingly hard process.
was like, obviously, like doing a 10-minute like sort of stand-up story where you sort of have this like comedy, and then like sort of there's still that darkness that you have in the series. Like, were you able to like get darker in the series just because of the time you had to explore the themes, or was that 10 minutes also pretty dark?
No, the 10 minutes. Well, the 10 minutes was actually quite light. When I developed it into the 1-hour play, the play was really, really dark. I like brutally crush a guinea pig to death in the play. I wasn't allowed to do that on the TV show. And she's also got a serious porn addiction in the play, and there are lots of other aspects that could be quite throwaway when it's just a one-woman show and it's just me talking to just the audience and it's all about language. But then there was that kind of stuff that actually visually wouldn't work so well. So actually watching me kill a guinea pig, or just watching me watch porn isn't quite the same as it being a kind of within a monologue when it's just restrained by the language. So I kind of just took a lot of those elements out and just really focused on her sadness and her pain and her grief, having lost her friends, and then lost her friend and her mum, and then just tried to bury that. So I knew the darkness was going to be there, but there were less kind of harsh edges than there were in the original 60-minute play.
Yeah. The guinea pig, if you had to kill the guinea pig in the series, what episode would that have happened?
Well, funnily enough, I think probably I was testing it out around 6, but then in the play there's a moment when the character he's called Tube Rodent in the play, but he's called Bus Rodent in the show. He almost kicks it in the cafe, thinking that it's a rat. And in the play, he does kick it, and she goes flying across the cafe. And then it's actually, I know Fleabag only actually kills her in the end because she's getting her out of her misery, putting her out of her misery, having been kicked. So it's in kindness. It's a death of kindness. Probably would have been 3, but it would really have changed the tone of the show. I think it would suddenly be like, no one's safe. What's going to happen? So, but I think it was right because I was heavily advised not to kill the guinea pig, and I think it probably would have become the guinea pig killing comedy show if I had done. So it's good.
Yeah, there could have been the red wedding moment of Fleabag, the like guinea pig killing all the So, with your character of Fleabag, what do you think, what is the one thing, you'd want audiences to take away from this character after watching the 6 episodes?
I want them to feel, I'd love them to feel like they'd made a friend and then been betrayed by her, but love her anyway. By the end was sort of the aim was really to build a complicity with an audience, to make them feel like that it really is just, the whole show has been made really just for them. And so when I break the fourth wall and talk to the camera, that it feels like a personal experience between Fleabag and the audience. And so then, and once once the character reels you in and makes you feel like you say, like you have that complicity, then there are twists and turns that make that relationship fracture. And so it's not, I suppose that, again, that's just from a structural point of view and experiential point of view, to kind of made and lost and been confused by a friend, I think, is I hope the takeaway feeling from it.
And you've got a show is funny, I guess good comedy, but it touches on real themes, sort of especially in the final episode or 2, where she sort of talks about her actually the final episode, she's talking to the guy about how she uses sex and things like that, and where that's coming from, something that in the first episode is introduced to us quite lightly through sort of your monologue of talking us through that scene and the guy coming to the door and all that sort of thing. And we sort of in the final episode, the big monologue of you talking through where that's all coming from and things like that. Sort of how did you want to approach that issue and those sorts of more complicated relational issues in the show?
Well, first of all, I really wanted to be about control, that the character is actually a real control freak and that she manages to control her life and her sense of personal value through sex, and being able to talk confidently about it and totally own her relationship with it with an audience, which is where the candor comes from, being able to say to somebody, yeah, I've just, fucked up the arse or whatever, that she has absolutely no... she's not prudish at all about it in that way, and she kind of uses it as a weapon of confidence and as a weapon of humor. But actually, it does actually, if you read between the lines, communicate a sort of obsession with it. That is, I think she's using it as a distraction from everything else, and actually, it runs so deep in her kind of obsession with it, that she realizes that by the end, it's what she uses to feel. To feel like she has some agency over her own life. And if she knows that somebody wants to have sex with her, or that she's about to have sex, or she's, having sex, then in that moment in her life, she can relinquish control of everything else, because that's the thing. She feels valued, she feels validated, and she feels in control. And so at the beginning, you're watching the act of that. And by the end, hopefully you're watching the kind of overflowing confession that that's her weakness. Well, it's sort of really kind of playing with the idea that a kind of liberated, sexually confident young woman, which is kind of considered a kind of cool thing, could actually be more complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like she's sort of like to me watching the show is sort of like not just sex but also comedy is used to sort of deflect from taking things seriously.
Yeah. And that's kind of again how you like reel them in, because I keep thinking that when I was first writing the play, I just it was even just a physical thing. Like when I saw audiences laughing at a joke that I'd made, audiences make themselves so vulnerable to you when they laugh. You know, they forget for a moment, and they're there with their mouth open and their heart open, going, "Oh, I love this person." I kept thinking, if I can get an audience to do that, then I can, come punch their heart while they're not noticing.
Yeah.
Kept trying to find moments like the more I can make an audience laugh, the more I can make them cry. Was the kind of aim.
Yeah. What's the funniest moment for you in season 6? In the 6 episodes.
I can watch Hugh Skinner, who plays Harry, my long-suffering boyfriend, Fleabag's long-suffering boyfriend, when I sneak up on him in the shower. And it's just I kind of had that the reaction had to be huge in my head and on the script, but I couldn't believe how committed and how hilarious Hugh performed that. I can watch it. It was like the one bit that I can just watch over and over again and just laugh every single time because of his reaction.
Was that hard not to break in the scene?
Yeah, well, luckily Fleabag's allowed to. I sort of just decided I was allowed to, because he's so shocked that he's reacting like that. But it's actually trying not to laugh was completely genuine in that scene. You can see me doing it.
How thoroughly was that moment scripted, or did he did he surprise you when you were doing it?
Yeah, it was scripted. Like all the lines that he said are in the script. And that time when he jumps for a second time, when I'm touching his face, is in the script. But Hugh just imbued it with so much more terror and vulnerability and emotion and like real tears and like convulsing muscles like in his body that it was sort of beyond anything I'd imagined. I sort of believed him in the moment so much that he was actually that terrifying. So, yeah.
Speaking of Hugh and also the other like boyfriends that are in the show, did you base any of these guys off real guys you've encountered or real friends of friends or anything like that?
Not really. Like a couple of the kernel of these characters always start with something that someone once said that then I kind of tease out into a character or something. Nothing's like an actual, like based on anyone I've actually ever met or like a portrait of anyone, but to a certain extent they're amplified versions of sort of either feelings I've had for or about people or moments that I've spent with them that I've thought, if I just turned that moment that we just had into something, a character, then yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I sort of feel they feel so familiar to me, but I couldn't actually point at a person in the world that they're based on. Probably, thankfully, I don't know.
Yeah. There's probably no ex-boyfriends like sitting anywhere going, "Is that what she thought of me?"
Well, I don't know. I really hope not. I'm sure it's crossed their minds, but I think the really funny thing is so many people have asked me if moments were based on them, and these are even like some girlfriends of mine talking about the male characters, some sort of like just lots of people have asked me if any bits were inspired by them. So I don't know. I hope not.
Has the answer ever been yes when someone's asked you that?
No, like there are a few moments like there's a tomato sandwich joke in episode 2 that the sister wants a tomato sandwich, and that is a conversation that my sister and I once had, just about how she ordered a tomato sandwich, and we were with my brother at the time, and we just thought it was such an eccentric sandwich that we just ripped the piss out of her for just ages about it. This has become like a family joke, and so when she first saw that episode, the character asked for a tomato sandwich, that was clearly lifted totally from my sister's eccentric sandwich choice. But But yeah, no, they're all a compilation of lots of people that I've met, and then the characters that I've created to sort of mush them together.
Yeah.
Although,
yeah, go.
Boo, the character Boo, my best friend, is actually the closest I've come to sort of ripping off somebody's actual personality, because Vicky Jones, who directed the stage play and helped me develop the play in the first place, and then was script editor on the script on the show, she is my best friend in the whole wide world, and I adore her and have her to. I just owe her so much stuff because of like she started making me write, and she directed the show and stuff. And she and the kernel of the show itself actually started with me imagining what life would be like without my best friend. And so I was like, God, what if like Vicky just died in a horrendous accident? And so just like sort of thinking in those sort of horrible ways. And then she and there are moments in it that have her spirit in her character.
Yeah. And you thought that'd make a good comedy series.
Yes, let's just kill everything she loves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. What we should have you should have when the next person asks you if something's based on them, you should say you should go well, I hadn't thought of that, but now you mention it. Like,
actually, yeah, it kind of given me inspiration for the next one.
Yeah. Anyway, what is the moment you are the most proud of? Of like, is there a scene or a particular aspect of the show that you look back and go, well, we did a really good job there?
Oh my gosh, there are so many moments that I feel so proud of. I feel God, that's such a good question. I was really pleased the tube scene worked. I was really worried that might not read with everybody, because it's a surreal moment in the show that there aren't any other surreal moments, and I was worried that actually jumping out of reality and into her own projected imagination might jar with the rest of the show. But the way that was directed, and Harry Babbitt directed it, and how all those amazing supporting artists just committed to it so much. And then when that played out and it had been edited, and it actually worked, and it was funny, I was like, oh, thank God, because that was kind of the weirdest bit in the script, and the fact that I felt like in the end that worked made me really proud. But on the whole, just mainly really proud of just how it felt like everyone had understood the show so profoundly, and it felt like everyone was part of the same world. I know that sounds like a sort of strange thing to say, but I wasn't sure of what this show was. Like, I knew in my heart, but I couldn't describe it particularly for a long time, or what I wanted it to feel or look like. And I worked really closely with the director, and the cast who came in they just got it, and we just felt like everyone was playing the same tone, the same reality, and the same level of pain and humour all at the same time. So I'm really proud of the cast.
Well, the show is competing for the Golden Globes and Screen Actors Guild Awards, comedy races, and like I thought, like, because we're an awards night at Gold Derby, how do you feel like Fleabag fits within the current television landscape? Because there are so many shows now on so many networks, all with such different tones and voices. Like, it's very hard to sort of, I don't know, for me as a viewer, it's hard to know where different shows find their place. Like,
it's just such what's amazing now is there are so many kind of genre crossing shows, and there are so many amazingly dark and dramatic half-hour shows, and then there are so many, those sorts of themes used to be tackled in a kind of hour-long show, and now comedy especially seems to be getting a lot more layered in terms of its tones, and I feel like that really helped in terms of Fleabag kind of nuzzling her way into the back of the crowd of of those shows like Transparent and Atlanta. I just love so much, and that they have layers. They're about a human experience. So I feel like there is a sort of gang of comedy drama half-hour stuff that I'm really so chuffed to be considered in the same. But I suppose just in the same kind of like full breakdown of what's coming out that came out, but it was in those sort of similar things. But I don't know, it just feels incredibly surreal, because I've been watching those shows, from the UK for so long, and then like even just you saying then how does I think it sits in there? I don't know. I hope.
Yeah.
I hope.
You look at the shows that get nominated, and there's like, you know, Mozart in the Jungle got in last year, which isn't a show that was like a huge popular culture, like, you know, like phenomenon. And then you see, like, you look at the shows that nominate, and it's just such a mixed bag. And there's like, you know, for every Mozart in the Jungle that gets in, there's another show that doesn't. So, but yeah, it's just a really interesting awards circuit now compared to what it probably was 10 years ago when you knew the 6 shows that were going to get in.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, I think it's so much about originality as much as execution now. There's a huge pressure on trying to find something new because everyone's flooded with so many different types of shows now. So I don't know how we begin. I mean, everyone is a kind of golden age of televisions, and I really do believe that, because suddenly there are all these other platforms and everyone can be way fucking ruder than they normally are, or darker than they normally are, or weirder. And actually the whole way through making Fleabag, I was going, this is so weird, this is such a weird show. I don't know who's gonna get behind this guinea pig show. And then, you know, and then actually that's what I love most about like shows that come from left field a bit, is that they're not like Mozart in the Jungle and Transparent, basically just like everything on Amazon.
Yeah.
They're encouraged to come from, you know, more left field kind of places now. I don't think it would have been so. We probably wouldn't even have been commissioned any earlier if it hadn't been for that kind of new wave of darker stuff.
Yeah. I guess also something to sort of try to touch upon or whatever is, do you what's similar between you and Fleabag?
Well, all my friends and family are alive and well, so that's a big difference between us. I feel like I found that I was writing a character who used comedy or humor to kind of deflect quite a lot. And even though I'm lucky enough not to have to deflect the same kind of horrible searing pain that she has in her life about her grief and her guilt and everything, I found that I was slightly unnerved by how easily that came to me, that actually you'd rather just make a little joke and then run the fuck away from a situation. And so that's really similar. And yeah, I suppose just a sense of humor. It was just that really dark, sort of darker side of my sense of humor that I didn't really think was allowed out in public. And then that side, but you know, I'm just happily married writer in London. Everyone's like, oh, what? Everyone just assumes I'm kind of like rolling backwards out of nightclubs, kind of just like clinging onto the trouser legs of men I've never met. They're all really like surprised and slightly disappointed when I say that. Yeah, no, I'm sort of, yeah. But those days of I mean, I've had those days with similar stuff that Fleabag got up to.
Yeah. Do we have a season, like, is there going to be a season 2 of Fleabag?
I'm sort of thinking about it at the moment. I said it was originally because it was originally a play and it had that one arc, and I felt like there's a certain closure to it. But at the same time, I can't quite let go of her yet. So I'm kind of starting to think about if there's more stories. But I want to make sure it's that if I do go back and do more, then that it's the right story and not just me being like, hey, you know, I've got an audience for this character, I'm just going to rinse her. I've got to make sure it's the right, cool, surprising story.
It's like Larry David, like I'll come back with a season of Curb when I've got an idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think everyone's happier that way around. I think it's just normally it's better work, but
yeah,
I'm just sometimes just sitting in my office, just staring onto the wall, being like, "When's it coming? When's the idea coming? It's got to be coming soon."
Yeah. So until that idea comes, what are you going to be doing, Phoebe, with yourself?
So I've just started writing a drama for BBC America, and that is about a psychopathic assassin and a woman who has to hunt her down. So I'm in the writer's room for that at the moment, and yeah, so that's sort of going to distract me for a little time, and then when that goes into production, hopefully, next year, I can look back at Fleabag and see what she's been up to in the meantime. In the back of my imagination. She's amazing, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Phoebe, thanks so much for chatting with us today. It was really, really cool. And yeah, all the best for the Golden Globes and Screen Actors Guild and the Psychopathic Assassin series and what's in the future for Fleabag. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Really great to talk to you.
It's really good too.